So like any other file in CalPads, course records present input validation errors. And while these errors are troublesome at times, the validation errors are to ensure that we have submitted accurate data. They're really a benefit to us. And so we should work diligently, one, to resolve our validation errors, but two, to avoid them in the first place. If we get in the habit of submitting clean data into CalPads, the submission process is much smoother. So let's review some of the more common input validation errors, or IVRs as we like to call them, found in the course submission. And so I'm on the View Submission Detail screen. And how to navigate here is explained in batch file demonstrations. We have a training dedicated to the batch file submission. But just real quickly, you see it says View Submission. You can either upload files or come directly to the View Submission screen using the left navigation. And I've selected a course. The landing page is View Submission. I'm on View Submission Details. So you can see the breadcrumbs at the top. And I've presented the errors. And again, I'm using our test CalPads, right? And so this is all sample data. No real courses, no real student information will be presented at any time. And with that, if we have any hiccups along the way, our developers use this to implement new features in the CalPads. And so hopefully everything will go well. And so when you're resolving your errors, you look at your error summary, you see the error number, and you would click the number here. You would click this number, and it will link you down below to the student or to the record triggering the error. So in this instance, we're looking at the course record, and so we will be looking at courses that are triggering errors. And so this is the error number, and this is really the name of the error. It reads like a description, but it's really the name. Code submitted outside the effective date range. So I open the record in detail, and when you're troubleshooting, I advise you to always go to the record detail. And at the top, you have the error severity, fatal. That means this record won't pass. It will never submit data to CalPads because it's fatal. You have your number or error code. It's the GER007. The error description, all right, that's the name. The field name where the error triggered, and the field value. And so I would always consult the error list. So here I have the error list, and I'm going to look for GER7. And so we have the error number, the error name, the error description, the all-important fields validated, which doesn't indicate any specific field, and then a resolution, okay? And so normally I would say look at the fields validated, but the GER or general error 7 can trigger on many fields, and so it can't specify, right? So let's look at the description. Code submitted outside the effective date range. What does that mean? Right? So we go to suggest a resolution. The values that can be submitted in the field must be effective in CalPads. The submitted file contains values that are no longer accepted in CalPads. Why might those values not be accepted? Because things to check for, right? Determine if the code value has been retired. So that's the key. And so you can always refer to the error list, and between the suggested resolution, giving you an indication of how to correct your error, the fields validated, telling you what fields to look like in the rejected record to identify the discrepancy, and then the description which gives you a better indication code submitted outside the effective date range, right? Although that's technically English, the problem is that description is probably too technical. It can be written a bit clearer. We've submitted an expire code. It could say that, it doesn't, but if you get familiar with the error list, you'll be able to read the technical jargon. And so that's what we want to be able to do, is use the error list effectively to troubleshoot. So let's go back to the error. After we've consulted the error list, we know that the value is not accepted because it's outside the effective date range, meaning that it's probably a retired code. And if you've watched the other modules of this training, you know that any 2100 series state course code has been retired. And so this record was rejected because the state course code is no longer valid. And if we look at the record details, we see each individual field in the record, and CRSE state course code 2108, we've submitted it. So at this point, we'd want to go back to the valid code combinations and find the matching description or the updated course code for this course. And if you're used to these old state course codes, there's a document you can go to. So you go to the CalPAD system documentation page, and you have a retired course mapping code for the 2019 year. And so we go to the All Courses tab. We see 2108 World Literature. It's a literature elective. The new code is 9112. And so I'd put this in my student information system. I don't have to change any of the details of the course content. I just have to update my codes. And so as a general practice, you can submit correct records to CalPADS, but the best way to resolve these errors are to go correct the information coming out of the student information system, submit new records. Remember, it's a full replacement file type, so you're going to be submitting past records and rejected records again. You're going to be submitting complete sets of records. It's an iterative process, so you may have to submit the course record several times, but the idea is to whittle down these errors until you have 100% pass records, and then you know all of your courses have been submitted to CalPADS and they all have accurate information. So let's look at the CRSC 0468. That's a new error this year in the 1920 academic year. And we'll open the record in detail and examine it. And again, we have the summary at the top. And so the error description is invalid course group state. So the course group state is CalPADS code language for state course code, right? The course group state is the set of state course codes. So we're back here again. Invalid course group state and departmentalized course standards grade level code combination. So this is a new field, course CRSE, course content standards grade level range code, right? This long name field here. And 2108 and mid, which stands for middle grades, that's 5 through 8, is invalid. And so I would reference the CalPADS code combinations document to look at the code combos. Now I know why it's invalid, and some of you that are sharp and some of you that are experienced may recognize immediately why. I'm neither of those. I'm practiced. Neither sharp nor am I experienced. You know, I'm pretty practiced. I make errors over and over and over again. Okay, here we have the CFS. That's not what I want. We have the error list. And we don't have the valid code combos. Here we go. And so I just showed you a bunch of documents that you will need, become familiar with them, and they all can be accessed on the system documentation page. Nope, that's the error list. Jeez Louise. Good mighty. Okay. So the valid code combinations is like the error list, it's like the CFS, it's a tabbed Excel document. And if you're unfamiliar with it, it's very valuable when you're submitting courses, whether it's fall 2 or end of year 1. And so there are new tabs related to combinations validated on the new fields. And we're looking for course group state grade level. And we triggered an invalid code on course group state 2108. So all we have to do is look up that course state code and look for the combination. Well, what in the world is going on? There are no matches. Again, those of you sharp or those of you experienced know why. And that's because this code 2108 has been retired. So it's not going to have a valid match. There is no combination with that code. So in essence, I'm looking at an error telling me it's an invalid combination. I will never find a valid combination because there is not one for the retired state course code. So that's something to look forward. I anticipate several of you will see this error, and possibly because you're using an expired code. Now, if you have a true and genuine invalid course code and departmentalized standards grade level combination, you can use the valid code combos tab to the course group state standards grade level range. You would scroll over, so say we were using 7,000, you would scroll over and it would tell you what the valid ranges are. And for 7,000, it's valid from K4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12. So it's valid all the way across. Some state course codes are not valid, but are only valid for a specific grade. So let's look at 7151. Okay, so we have 7151 Intermediate Forestry and Natural Resources. It's a concentrated course, not possible to use in K through 4 or 5 through 8. So we have to be in high school to use this code, only in grades 9 through 12. And so that course code cannot be paired with the mid grade level standards code, nor could it be compared with the elementary standards code. So that's how you would use this tab. And it's a new feature in CalPads. It was worth demonstrating. It's new also to the valid. It's a new valid code combos because we've introduced new fields. So there's a couple of reasons why you would trigger the 0468. It's either you have an invalid combination, which is true, or you used an expired code. Okay, this is the old one, CRSE 0131, missing language of instruction code. And we're going to open in detail. And okay, we're missing language of instruction code. It's pretty straightforward. I look at the record details, I scroll down, language of instruction, it's indeed missing. Okay, why do I have to report it? So that's when you consult the error list. Missing language of instruction code. If the education service code is 1, then the language of instruction code must be populated. So I go look at the education service code field. It is 1. So that's required to be populated. It tells me what fields to look at, the education service code and the language of instruction. So the fields validated is a key column in the error list. How do I fix this? So I look at the suggested resolution. If the education service code is correctly populated, which it is, ensure that the correct value for language of instruction is provided. If the education service code is incorrectly populated for the submission, remove or change them so the value is submitted to CalPADS for the course section record of the seed. Yeah. Okay, so I know that when you say the education service code is 1, primary language of instruction is provided. It's an EL service based on your teacher's authorizations. So that's why in the suggested resolution, it referenced the seed, meaning the teacher and the teacher's authorizations. Since we're providing primary language of instruction, this course should tell us what that language is, whether it's Chinese, Spanish, Vietnamese, Hmong, Marshallese, whatever ease it could be, right? Whatever the language is, it might be French. The only thing it cannot be is English. It's assumed that you're going to teach the students English. And because they're English learners and they're learning the English language, they have a different primary language, right? They're EL students receiving EL services. So what is their primary language? What is the language of the course that the primary language of instruction is adding to? Again, it can never be English or 37, which is American Sign Language. So that's that error. So let's look at the CRSE 0456. Oh man, I bombed. Look how many, geez Louise. So let's see why I have this error so often. The CRSE 0456, it's online course instruction type code. The online course instruction type code should not be populated. Says who? I'll populate it if I want to. So I'm going to go back to the error list, and I have a million documents open on this desktop. Have the error list. I'm going to type in the error number, if I can remember it. Okay, online course instruction type code should not be populated. So I have the correct error word name. If the distance learning indicator is null or no, then the online course instruction type code should be blank. So I'm going to be looking at 2 fields according to the fields validated, the distance learning indicator and the online course instruction type code. And distance learning indicator says no. The online instruction type code says no. So it's not distance learning and it's not online instruction. Why would this trigger an error? As confounding as that is, no values are accepted in the online course instruction type code, not a Y, not an N, not anything, if the distance learning code is no. And just a point of reference, you would go to the CalPADS code sets because N is not a valid code for the online instruction type code. So you get the gist of how to troubleshoot errors in the course section. It's the same as how you would troubleshoot any errors that were submitted. You use the error number to go to the error list. You identify the error description to give you a general idea of why the error has triggered. You look at the fields validated column to identify where you need to look for discrepancies. And then you would use the suggested resolution for ideas of how to resolve those errors.